Welcome to today's sermon, where we explore a powerful theme, the practice of accompaniment. This isn't just about helping others. It's about walking alongside people in mutual respect, listening and learning from one another. We dive into two incredible stories from the Gospel of Mark, one featuring the Syrophoenician woman whose persistence and faith changed the course of Jesus' ministry, and another of a man who is healed from deafness. Both moments remind us of how Jesus meets people where they are, inviting them into God's future. Join us as we reflect on how we can live out this ministry of accompaniment in our own lives.
As we celebrate our denomination's big day of service and our coming together, I'm reminded of one of the primary focuses of the ELCA. We see it best in our work on global missions as our missionaries engage people all over the world. It's the practice of accompaniment. I'm not talking about musical accompaniment that Jerry or Ruth could give us, although an accompaniment soundtrack would really sound pretty cool. Accompaniment is embodying the presence of Jesus in mutual respect, empowerment, and learning. It's not the old way of doing missionary work. That way involved us saying something like, "We know and have God's truth, and we will bring it to you people who need it." Accompaniment enters a relationship with people, whether abroad or right here in our own city. Accompaniment asks us for mutuality, respect, and perhaps to listen to other people. Jesus' ministry is all about accompaniment. It's coming alongside people, meeting them where they are, and inviting them into God's future that he brings about right in front of them. And that is tiring work. This morning, Jesus enters a house in the region of Tyre. It's a foreign place, a place of the Gentiles, the place where not many Jewish people would go. It's the perfect place for finding that solitude and entering the house hoping to stay out of sight, really hoping people wouldn't know he was there. Why did Jesus want to keep his presence a secret? Perhaps it was due to the recent murder of his cousin John the Baptizer. It might also have been because he had just faced criticism from the Pharisees and the scribes regarding his disciples eating with unwashed hands. Additionally, he had been tirelessly feeding the hungry, healing the sick, and teaching challenging crowds. Jesus was grieving, exhausted, and under pressure. It's understandable that he would want to be alone. He's tired, and we know that feeling all too well. The Syrophoenician woman in Mark's story is also tired of the broken dishes, things strewn all over the house, her daughter's hateful words and harmful actions as she's possessed by an unclean spirit. She watches day in and day out what this unclean spirit does to her daughter with no hope and no healing. She's a parent, and parents are usually relentless in protecting their children. I know that I would do anything to improve Lorelei's life. Desperate parents do desperate things. She's at the end of her rope, and so she leaves her daughter alone and comes to Jesus. And they get into an argument. She bows down and begs him to heal her daughter from this unclean spirit. And Jesus responds in ways that make some pastors feel uncomfortable. He uses a racial slur. He calls her a dog, and he tells her to stay in her lane. Healing is for the Jews first, not the Gentiles. It's unfair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. And this desperate parent does a thing. She talks back to him and says, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Boom. In your face, Jesus. Mic drop. She's the only person in all of Mark's gospel who challenges Jesus and wins an argument. Jesus says, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." And so it had. Jesus' mission and ministry opened here and became for Jews and Gentiles. Mark's gospel wouldn't be complete without that ministry. Mark's community included both Jews and Gentiles, and so Jesus realizes that his ministry is bigger than he thought up until that moment. And Jesus also does a thing. Here we see Jesus letting a woman speak her mind and share her understanding. Instead of showing off his power, he humbles himself, knowing that there are times to listen, agree, and recognize a good point, even if you initially disagree. Her daughter is healed not just because she believes in Jesus, but also because she speaks up, makes her case, and puts in the effort. Jesus isn't wrong in what he says. He never claims that dogs don't eat, just as the woman never says her family is more important than others. They both share their views of the situation and find common ground. In tough conversations, it's crucial to step back and listen, especially when it really matters. Jesus listens. Jesus accompanies her. Jesus goes on a little further this morning to the region of the Decapolis. When he gets there, some people bring to him a man who is deaf and can't speak right. The people who brought the man begged Jesus to lay his hand on him so that he might be made well. And Jesus does. In contrast to the healing of the Syrophoenician woman's daughter, Jesus takes the guy aside, puts his fingers in his ears. I wonder if Jesus washed his hands with sanitizer first. And then he touches the man's tongue. He says the word, "Be opened," and like clockwork, the man is healed. Jesus orders the people not to tell anyone, but you probably know how that goes. Like when the healing of the woman's daughter, once you see remarkable things, get remarkable news, or meet Jesus face to face, you can't help not sharing him with others. Jesus orders the people not to tell anyone, but you probably know how that goes. Like when the healing of the woman's daughter, once you see remarkable things, get remarkable news, or meet Jesus face to face, you can't help not sharing him with others. These two stories are very different, but their impact is the same. You often hear me tell anyone that I baptize that the life of faith is never very straight. There's always twists and turns, ups and downs. Every journey is different. Sometimes it may feel like an upward battle. It might seem unfair and unjust. It might be tiring as we see yet another school shooting and wonder what our world is coming to. We also might be tempted to compare our faith journey to someone else's, and that isn't always hopeful. No two journeys or stories are the same, even if they seem like it. As we reflect on these powerful stories from Mark's Gospel, we're reminded of the profound truth that Jesus' ministry was about accompaniment. Jesus meets us where we are, in our struggles and in our joys, inviting us into a relationship of mutual respect and love. He shows us that true accompaniment involves listening, learning, and sometimes being challenged to see beyond our own perspectives. Today, as we celebrate our denomination's day of service, let's commit to embodying this practice of accompaniment in our own lives. Whether in our local community or global missions, let's walk alongside others with open hearts and minds, ready to learn and grow together. As you go into this week, I invite you to consider how you can practice accompaniment in your daily life. Perhaps it's reaching out to someone who feels isolated, listening deeply to a friend in need, or engaging in conversations that challenge your own assumptions. Remember, the table is big enough for all of us. As we go forth, we are empowered by Jesus' example to accompany others with love and grace, to shine the light of each tomorrow in our world, knowing that we are never alone on this journey. Amen. That's this week's episode of Peace Lutheran Sermons podcast. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.